Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my review for the latest episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Identity and Change. And this was another good episode that really advanced the arc of what's going on within the framework and with Ada, and kind of giving us some more information about what's been going on and giving other characters information. So we start out and we see Coulson and Daisy kind of like talking about what's going on. Coulson like, I knew things were wrong, that Hydra was lying to us and everything. And Daisy's like, yep. And he's like, even the soap, the blue soap. And she's like, what? It's got chemicals to make you forget and more complacent and everything. And I kind of like that little nod to the Matrix with the red and the blue pill, with the blue pill keeping you inside the Matrix. So they get up to speed and go to meet Ward and Simmons at their safe house and figure out their plan of attack. Of course, Simmons wants to try and get Fitz to like remember and everything, but Daisy's like, no, he's changed, he's different. That's not going to work. And they're still trying to figure out what to do, and they're like, well, Radcliffe built this, we've got to figure out some way to get out of here. He'd have to have left a way out of here. And then, of course, that triggers Ward being like, oh, you mean the scientist that figured out how to cure in humans? It's like, well, I don't know where he's at, but he's in here. And then, of course, Daisy's like, okay, we'll split up. You guys go to meet the resistance. I'm going to go figure out more information on Radcliffe. So, of course, she gets into the Triskelion, starts like getting into Madame Hydra's restricted files, and Ward's like, what are you doing here? She's like, nothing, here we go, and figures out his location and all that, gives it to Ward, and he goes off because May had called her in for a mission. And before this, we had seen that Fitz had been talking with Ada, and Ada's, of course, putting on her sob story pretty much to get Fitz to be on her side. How that these people are from the other side, that her and Fitz know about the real world, but of course Ada doesn't call it the real world. And he's like, so that's why you need Project Looking Glass. So that must be probably some kind of monitoring or some kind of way for Ada to have a leg up. And of course she's talking about how she was enslaved, that S.H.I.E.L.D. had won, that she was used as a tool and all this, and had shown him Simmons' photo. And of course I think she was hesitant because she didn't want him to have triggered memories of Simmons. And of course he doesn't show any visible signs or anything. He's like, okay, I'll help you out, I'll send a team, we'll be good. And of course he passionately kisses her after telling her that he'd cross the universe for her. And this is an important kind of thing because it seems that Ada somehow worked out to transfer Fitz's passion for Simmons onto her. And I think she would want that, but it goes to show kind of maybe how much control she can have over someone in the framework. Because other people we've seen, it is not that fine-tuned or that she can change their dominant personalities. So, of course, this leads to the whole briefing with Daisy about how they need to go after Simmons. She's a terrorist. We have to stop her attack and all that. Make society great again. Hail Hydra kind of thing. So that's kind of where they're off. We have also seen that Mac is also kind of like doing his own thing in the framework with his daughter. Building drones and stuff like that. And she's super smart, hitting on him that, yeah, the brain peaks at age 24 and then goes downhill from there. So, I'm smarter than you. Showing that she had a working drone before him, and then he sees that it's got Hydra stuff in it, and of course they don't want anything to do with Hydra, stay low key. She's like, I found this stuff in the park, and he's like, don't worry, I'll protect you, we got this. And of course, they're going for like the school bus and everything. A Hydra patrol pulls by, does a spot ID check, and before they get to Mac and his daughter, because the daughter had brought the drone with her to like dispose of it, a dude bolts and is seen as a potential inhuman, and they get out of there and get away. It's like, okay, we're good. So, while they're going off to kind of go back to their house, and Daisy's going off on her mission, we see the resistance. And we see Coulson and Simmons kind of meeting with Mace. And he's the Inhuman leader of the resistance, kind of giving them the rundown that Billy Koenig had given them the bunker. See the wall of agents that are dead. We see Coulson kind of geeking out over the Patriot like he had geeked out over Captain America, showing that there are certain personality traits that are kind of like keyed into people. but we're not seeing those personality traits presented in Fitz. So that, of course, goes into, like, Ada's control. So they pretty much get to a spot. Mace is like, I don't know if I trust you that much. Ward comes in. He starts kind of hitting on Simmons like, after you showed up, Skye's been acting differently. And she's kind of fed up with that, shows him her shield ID badge and everything, and then Mace apologizes. And Ward gives her the coordinates, and we see that Radcliffe is on Ogygia. And this is a kind of cool Easter egg that they put in here, because the island of Ogygia is the home of Calypso. More of the prison of Calypso, because in Greek mythology, she had helped out the Titans, and the gods were pissed at that, so they put her on this prison island that didn't exist on the world at all. And it's funny that Ada had put this kind of thing in the framework for Radcliffe to live. And it's kind of cool to see her kind of thinking on that, and kind of gives us the mindset of how she thinks of Radcliffe. Yes, he's the creator, but this is more of a prison for him rather than a paradise. So they get it all set up. Mace is like, I can't spare a team to go get Radcliffe, so that's that. So Ward is like, alright, I'll pilot and supervise them because they volunteered to go and do it themselves. So they go off to do that. We see that Daisy's mission entailed them arresting Mac and his daughter, and taking them to Hydra HQ to be interrogated. Of course, Daisy's at the daughter, kind of like consoling her and making her feel better and all that. And then she goes in to talk with Mac, and at first it seems like Mac realizes who she is. Daisy, that they're S.H.I.E.L.D. agents, and everything going on with that. But he's like, I'm sorry, and shows that he has a mic on to get Daisy's confession. So she tries to escape, but is unsuccessful as May and the Hydra agents capture her, and that's kind of where we leave her off at the moment. Then we get to see all of the stuff that goes down on Ogygia with Radcliffe. And of course, Simmons kind of hits on him, like, you've done a lot of damage. And he's like, listen, I did not try to do this to be bad or to hurt people. I tried to do this as a paradise for people in the afterlife and all that. And Simmons is like, well, then help us get out of here. And he's like, well, I can't. Because Ada killed me. I'm dead. So I'm trapped in here as well. And she's like, well, can't you get us like a way out or anything? At least tell us where our friends are. And he's able to tell her that the Russian has this oil drilling platform in the Baltic. That's where they're at. And he's like, if Ada has closed off all the exits, then she knows you're here. And then, of course, that shows that a Hydra Zephyr comes in with Ada and Fitz. And, of course, Simmons, Ward, and Coulson back off and hide out when that's going down. And it was really kind of cool to see because it was very Star Wars-like. Stormtrooper kind of stuff coming in with, like, Ada with the cape and all that. And then kind of hitting on Radcliffe. And Radcliffe is unloading on Ada. Saying that, like, she's manipulative, she lies constantly, and she's like, well, it's alright to lie to save a life. You taught me that. And he's like, you know what I mean. You've completely changed this world to be a nightmare and everything. And, of course, he's calling her Ada, and she's like, stop calling me that. That's an acronym for artificial, and that's a real peg with her. She is pissed off with that kind of stuff. And it's interesting to see her getting those human emotions and everything and showing her side. And then, of course, we see him trying to appeal to Fitz. Now, as he's about to do that, they bring Agnes, and she's like confused and everything, and Fitz pulls a gun on her. And then Radcliffe is trying to explain everything because he wants to know why Radcliffe thinks he knows him. He's like talking about the other world, how he's a good guy, helped him, they were good friends, they would drink, they'd watch football and all that. And he's like, no, you don't know me at all. And he shoots, and I don't know if it's if it's killing Agnes, how that works in the framework. And this, of course, surprises Simmons because Ward has a bead on him and wants to kill the Doctor in his world, But Simmons is like, no, he's a good man. He's not going to do it. And he does it. And this, of course, freaks Simmons out. And she's like, no! And seeing Fitz kind of look at her and kind of have some kind of recognition. But not all the way. And, of course, Ada and Fitz leave and take Radcliffe with them. And this is surprising because this isn't really in character for Fitz. And then it still brings up the whole rationale of how much control Ada's got over him. We get to the end of the episode and we see Daisy locked up in a cell and we hear the screams of Radcliffe and all that being tortured. And then, of course, Fitz comes in, realizes that, hey, we reran your Inhuman test. You're Inhuman potential. And Daisy's like, this isn't you. This isn't you. And Fitz like, oh no, I know who I am. This is me. You don't know who I am. And it's just chilling to see that from Fitz, and I'm kind of glad that they went this way to kind of explore what's going on and what will go through Fitz's mind once he's outside of the framework. Because we don't know if he's going to feel he's probably going to feel guilty for killing Agnes, but in all reality, she had already physically died and could have been completely manipulated in the framework by Ada, no matter what, to whatever end. She could have been put in a loop of a completely spiraling death loop. She could still be doing that. We don't know if she's dead yet or how the framework deals with that. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes and if Agnes will come back, what Radcliffe could have up his sleeve since he knows the intimate details of the framework, what Ada has up her sleeve, and where this is going to shake out. Because we've seen that the people in the framework don't completely lose who they are. Certain personalities might be subsumed by things, but there's just certain ways you can't change people. So it'll be interesting to see how that'll go with Fitz, what'll be his breaking point to break the conditioning. Same with May, and because we saw also at the end of the episode that Mac had him to come to the Resistance because he wants to make right, because they tell him that he had let Daisy be captured by Hydra, and of course that sets them into the motion of probably the rescue missions, even if they weren't going for Radcliffe before. So now they're like, okay. So it did some interesting things that I really want to see go forward in the next couple episodes and do the season finale. We've got the basic setup of that. We now know where they are in the real world. Now they either just need to relay that information to the outside world somehow, or somehow get out there and do it. I think it's going to be a combination of the two, that they will somehow try and figure out how to get the information out to like Yo-Yo and the rest of the team, and that they will have to contend with the Superior defending Ada while she's trying to get at Simmons and the Resistance to stop them from mucking up her framework. So those are my opinions on the episode. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.